Money. Sometimes it's hard to make it all add up. Thankfully, as part of your Microsoft 365 subscription, Money in Excel makes managing your finances a bit easier. Keep track of all your accounts in one place to help reach your financial goals. See how much you spent online last week. Set up a personalized budget. Get alerts about due payments and save for a rainy day as you stay on top of it all with Money in Excel. Buy now at Microsoft365.com/budget.
Hey, this is Justin. It is New Year's Eve, and I did a LinkedIn post yesterday talking about new venture, ideas to reality, and got a comment from Mikhail Dubinsky. I believe I'm pronouncing his first name correctly, because we only spoke once on a jam session, but I believe that is correct. I do apologize if that's not a correct pronunciation of your first name if you're hearing this. And so it was like talk a little bit about some of the brainstorming strategies was basically the summary. So let me start with here. I got this message about 11:48. My wife was watching X-Files in the background, but one of the important things for me is to get ideas outside of the head and get them communicated in some way where it's satisfaction. Now, I probably shouldn't have been looking at the message at 11:48 at night, but I did. So what I did is I did a sketch. And the sketch is going to be in the thumbnail for this episode. It's not going to be easy to see. Hopefully that this will get communicated. What I did, I created the sketch, and I took a picture of the sketch and I put it in the comments. Now, it wouldn't make a ton of sense in that format, but what it does is it relieves the conscious mind from like, look, we don't have to deal with this problem in the moment, because the challenge is the conscious mind, when it thinks about two things at a time, is like, I should go to sleep or I should do this sketch. It's like, I need to be doing this thing right now. So it starts relieving the conscious mind. So let me talk a little bit about the sketch. I started the center and just wrote brainstorm ideas at the center. And I was like, let me create a little bit of a wireframe. And a wireframe is a framework to work around. Like, here's the stilts around what we're working with here to start a summary. Like, we want to work with inside of these constraints. Now, here's number one. What is my headspace? Like, how am I feeling in the moment? Am I empowered? Am I disempowered? If I'm disempowered, I prefer to do some work to get back to a place of being empowered, and some mental work, just figuring out what's causing the disempowered. But, if I'm empowered, then we can start to move forward and make stuff work. So I think that's important, because the brainstorming, what we want to be able to do is tap into our subconscious mind. And if we're brainstorming by ourselves, it's our single subconscious. If we're brainstorming in a group of people, we want to tap into the mastermind, which is sort of the collective subconscious. The space between us. Because typically, if we could solve this problem like with our conscious mind, then we would have done that already, right? It wouldn't even be necessary to be able to do this work. So we want to be able to tap into the subconscious, because the conscious mind isn't really good at creativity. The conscious mind is really good at creating a safe with some of the work that we're doing, right? So we just want to be satisfied at every spot. And the other important thing is good enough is good enough. So the thesis that I start with is, with time, some education, some knowledge that's probably out there on the internet, dollars, network, or serendipity, every problem can be solved, like with a combination of one of those of those sorts of solutions. Like, if we give something enough time, it's going to get solved. If we learn something new, it's going to get solved. If we, my favorite is typically the network. Like, we can go to the network and help us start working through some of the issues, or some dollars can make something work. So, I've been in let me talk about like sort of a constant inquiry. There is I'd love to write a book, right? But what does it look like? Let's look at the dollar solution. There's a great, I'm forgetting the name of the company, but it's a company for $25,000. They'll basically interview you for a period of time and write your book. It's not really ghostwritten, like you're writing it along with them, but they're interviewing you. That's the 25, and then you get a good book out of that. I believe Michael Burnoff created his book in that way. It's Tucker Max's company, or it used to be Tucker Max's company. $25,000, like, I could have my book. Like, I can invest a period of time, and I can have my book. There's also a solution that's like $1,800. They interview you for like an hour and a half, and then you get a book. And it's not necessarily as good. Or you could sit down and do the traditional way of like sit down and write the book, or start to invent another way. Like, I would like to create a book via transcriptions, via audio messages, which I have. I've got 500 to 700 hours worth of audio message, and just getting those organized in a way that creates a book. But the piece that I don't have worked on is the editing piece. So that is what we're starting to think about. Like, how do we take a transcription like this and start to edit? So that's a brainstorm that's actually working in the background all the time. But I believe, talking about the serendipity piece a little bit, there's two books. Accidental Genius was where I got started into the brainstorming. Accidental Genius is using free writing as access to your greatest thoughts, and just sit down and write for a period of time. And eventually what's going to happen is you're going to tap into the subconscious mind, and you're going to really start to come up with some good ideas. I do free talking because it's when I was doing free writing, the problem is when I would go subconscious, it would be great. It would feel good, but I wouldn't be able to access the thoughts later. Whereas if I do free talking, I can record it and have it for myself later. There's also a book by William Dugan. I believe if I'm pronouncing that correctly. There are two William Dugans. It might be Duggan. It's called The Seven Sense, which here are possible passions and here are possible solutions, and you fill in the blanks between the two. Because again, when we started this, we created the wireframe. Because here's the important thing. We want to be able to put stuff out there to be able to get feedback very quickly. So let me talk about real practical applications of starting to do this brainstorming, and to get into those. Okay, so number one is a top 20 list. So top 20 list works this way. All right, so the problem I want to solve, it is January 30th, 2021, and I have skis. What are they called? I don't want downward skis. I want skis that, and I'd write this down, but I have, cross country skis that, I'm so happy with the amount and the value that I got on those. Right. Okay. So that's what happened. And then here's what we did. I'm looking in the future. Okay, so here's what I did. I went to Facebook Marketplace, number one. I went to Craigslist, number two. I shared in my audio messages every day that I'm looking for skis, number three. Number four, I went to Amazon.com. Number five, I set a note for myself to go back to Mark, blah, 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 blah. I go all the way through that list into 20. And then I'd write that list. And then I'd go through, I was like, all right, it's January 30th. Let's think through January 30th. And if you look at the future is either going to be in front of you or off to your right. The future for me, when I close my eyes, it's off to my right. So I look at, it's January 30th, 2020. And now I've got my cross-country skis. What did I do? And it shows up for me typically as a number. Now I can even see it here. If I really want to have cross-country skis, I would go to Facebook Marketplace. I would set a note for myself to go to Facebook Marketplace for 5 minutes every single day to solve the problem. I'd look for what the best solution is every day for the skis that are actually there. And then I would see, is this good enough or do I need to improve? And if it's not good enough, then what are the parameters that I need to work in to make it good enough, right? And so for me, it typically shows up in number. And then immediately I would go to Facebook Marketplace. If that was something that I was actually really working on, I would go to Facebook Marketplace right now. I spend 5 minutes looking for it. I would capture, here's the best solution. Here's the distance, here's the cost, it means my parameters. I've got size 12 shoes. And then I'd work on it, right? And then I'd see and then I would, put it in my to-do list to follow up later. So that's number one as far as the strategy goes. Number two is walk and talks. Those are my favorites. Those are more just free form, but I can give myself, look, the intention of this walk is to come up with additional income opportunities. How do we start monetizing some of these podcasts in a way that's creative, not through advertising, in a way through working with people directly. And that's what I've been thinking about, for a while. How do we walk and talks? And I just go and talk about it for a while. Here's why it's important to me. And but the important thing is I record it. And because when I record it, my future self or somebody else's future self gets access to it. The best walk and talks, this is I'm sitting down for this one actually because I'm actually looking at my sketch. The best ones though are based on a sketch, handwritten, something at the beginning to get it started, which this was, this is based on a sketch. I'm jumping around a little bit. because you don't have a screen. I also don't like Post-it notes, because when you're writing Post-it notes, typically you're looking down. I like to look up. I like to be present in the world. I like to have everything accessible to me. So do it just going for a walk and talk, record it. If you're looking for the tools to record it on, Otter is probably the best. It does transcription out live. The second one is Yak, Y-A-C. Because Yak, you can start having a conversation with people. So if you want to follow up on any of this, hit me up on yak.com/Justin F, and we can have a conversation. In Yak, you can start doing brainstorming collectively with people asynchronously. And then look at it. But the whole idea is you want to get to a place of, this feels right. This feels right. The third model, it's based on a TED Talk, and I cannot remember. I can see her who's created it. It was created in 2014. It was called Drawing Your Future, where what you start with is like, here is a drawing of the modern day situation. And then, here, that's on the left side of the page. And then on the right side of the page is, here's a drawing of the future situation that we want to create. And you could do this with stick figures. It doesn't make a difference. Like you could do, like I do, like I'm happy-ish now. Like that's like a little partial smile. And then I'm looking in the future. I'm really happy. And it's like, when I start thinking about like goals, I just like I start thinking about income. Like if I want my income to go up, I would draw like an arrow going up, and I'm happy. And I'm just like, a lot of mine are, here I am today with a bunch of ideas, which are like question marks or word bubbles. And then here I am today with a lot of like people impacted. I'll draw like thousands of stick figures, right? And then you put 3 arrows in the middle and put 3 things in there of, here's the action that you take. So you want to, the big principle, you don't want to go for the one solution that works. You want to give yourself multiple options to be able to pick from to work. So what that does is it creates an abundance of opportunities. Like salespeople, imagine if you had one lead that you had to close, or you had thousands of leads that you had the opportunity of. You want to create the abundance of opportunity to be able to work through. So thanks a lot for listening to this one. This is coming in a podcast format. The other thing that I want to hit home with is ship quickly. So I got this post at about 11:48 at night on whatever night it was. I got this posted, this request at 11:48 at night. I did a sketch immediately, right? I didn't go right to the recording of the podcast because I wanted to go to sleep, but I had it for me when I woke up this morning, and then I shipped that. I sent that in the note. It didn't even make any sense, but when you ship things, you automatically kick off the feedback loop. And the feedback loop might be people ignore it. The feedback loop might be people get back to you. The feedback loop might like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. Don't prejudge your work as great or not great ahead of time, because you have no idea what the things are that are going to make the biggest difference. So thanks so much for listening to this one. I really do appreciate you, and have an amazing day.
Save your most important documents and photos in the cloud. A Microsoft 365 subscription gives you a full terabyte of secure OneDrive storage, plus an added layer of protection with OneDrive Personal Vault. Buy now at Microsoft365.com/photos.
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online, so any small business can drive change or build an empire. Because old ideas aren't cutting it anymore. This new year, we need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. So whatever you have in mind that will help make a different future, find everything you need to get started at GoDaddy.com. Because the future isn't decided yet. It's still ours to win. Start different at GoDaddy.com.